Okay, let's reiterate what we have discussed yesterday. There is a OData service with three entities. One is a sales order item, sales on product. We are using enterprise procurement model and its objects to create these entities and to provide data to it. Okay, yesterday we have created an association between sales order and sales order item with the principal entity cardinality as 1 and the dependent entity cardinality as 1 to n. So after that we implemented the sales order items underscore get entity set method. Okay. Um, so we implemented sales order items underscore get entity set method, and we are requesting sales order items from sales order through navigation property called order to items. Okay, so this is the navigation property which is associated with this relationship, and this relationship established between sales order and sales order items, and the cardinality of the sales order is 1 and the cardinality of the sales order items is 1 to n. Okay. So what is driving all this OData service development? As we have discussed, our UI application is driving all this OData service, right? Okay, let's just look at. So anybody tried Splash?
No, no.
Okay.
So how do you upload data into this? Is what had you said?
Uh, all these are, example applications. The data comes with
Oh,
it.
these are all already
Yeah,
these
these
are
are
all
all.
already existing applications.
Yeah, I mean, these are not exactly apps. These are just wireframes. This is a
Right.
prototype tool, but you can upload the data. Let's say whenever you create certain entities, right? You can upload all the data from your system so that the application can look real whenever you show it to the developer.
Hmm.
So it has all the tools to create visual great prototypes. So
Mhm.
just get your hands on it so that, I mean, it is easy. I mean, there is now development involved. You can choose one of the existing project and you can make changes to it. Later you can upload data from your business systems so that the application look real. You can show it to the functional people, or you can give it to the, normally it is for functional folks who can
Mhm.
create wireframes and give it to the developers to develop. If you just talk on whiteboard or something, it might not be, you might not actually say what you really want. Probably with these prototypes, you can just say, okay, this is what I want. These are the colors, these are the symbols. Okay.
Mhm.
So on the left hand side, we see sales orders. Whenever we click on sales order, we are going to get the sales order details and sales order items. Whenever I click on sales order item, I'm going to get the product details. So yesterday we already talked about it. What is the relationship between sales order and sales order item? So each sales order contains 0 to n number of sales order items, and each sales order item contains a product. So that defines how our association should look like. Okay, so there is one-to-one relationship between sales order item and product. So since we have all the entities, let me go ahead and create association. I'll keep it in the edit mode, create. Okay, so to reflect the cardinality, I'm just going to say sales order item to product, right? So what is the principal
Sales,
entity?
sales order item.
Yeah, what is the cardinality?
1.
So we are going to create the navigation property on the principal entity because we want to navigate from sales order item to product, not vice versa. So we are going to create navigation property on principal entity or sales order item. Okay. We're just going to say item to product, right? So the dependent entity is,
Product.
and the cardinality is, yeah, it's 1. So if you see the keys here, sales order and sales order item position, right? But none of this exists on the product. So we cannot really have referential constraint because sales order item and sales order item position is not a key on product. Only product ID is the key on product entity. So we cannot have so we will see how it plays out when you don't have referential constraint. Okay, I'm simply don't have any referential constraints. So I will just say sales order item to product set is my association set, and the entity set name and entity set name here. The principal entity set name, dependent entity set name. Okay. So if you look at sales order item, there will be a navigation property created on the sales order item called item to product, right? Item to product is the navigation property, and this points to a relationship called sales order item to product, right? And this association, if you look at this association, the principal entity is sales order item, and the cardinality is 1, and it goes to product whose cardinality is also 1, right? So with this navigation property from sales order item, I can go to product, but since it is just 1, so the method that we wanted to implement is,
Product get entity.
yeah, we have changed design time information there, so we have to generate the runtime artifact so that all the model provider class um, This is the one that we got to implement. Okay. So since I have changed the information during design time, let me go ahead and generate the runtime artifacts. Every time you make change, uh, you will see what are all the classes that got affected. Okay, so let's say if we go to model provider class, we will see all the associations and all. Okay, in the associations, let's say in the associations, earlier we just have one association. Now we will see one is for sales order to sales order items, and the other one is for sales order item to product. And the principal entity or the left hand side entity is sales order item, and the left hand side cardinality is 1. And the right hand side entity is product, and the right hand side cardinality is 1. And the corresponding association set is sales order item to product set. So what is the navigation property? Item to product. On what entity type it has been created? Sales order item, right?
Right. Yeah.
So we navigate from sales order item to product through navigation property called item to product. And this item to product is associated with a relationship called sales order item to product.
Set.
Sales order item to product with the cardinality of the sales order item is 1 and the cardinality of the product entity is 1. So we know which method we want to implement. So let me go to the data provider class extension. Okay. And this is the products underscore get entity. Let me just redefine it. In order to get the product, required product, we need to know what is the sales order and what is the sales order item. Then only we can know product information. From there, we will go and get the product details, right? So I redefine it, but I'm not going to write any code, okay? I'll just activate it so that I will see what kind of information I have been getting, okay? So to test it, I go to activate and maintain services. Okay. So this is my service. Go to the gateway client. And even in the metadata, it should reflect, what are all the changes. Let's say if I add metadata, at least for the for the first few times until you get acquainted with this framework, with these tools, whenever you make changes, just pay attention to what it has done. So that way you can easily learn and you know what it is doing in the background. If you know all of that, you can just go to classes and you can just play with it. Okay. Just don't follow the sessions. There are tons of information outside in SCN. There are lots of blogs and all apart from what we have been discussing. Just go and read the blogs so that you can know much more. Okay. So if we look at the sales order item, we should see navigation property. We'll see a navigation property called item to product. Okay. And it is associated with relationship called sales order item to product. Okay. So similarly in the associations you will see a new association called sales order item to product, and I mean you will see what is the principal entity and what is the sales order item is the principal entity and the cardinality is 1. Product is the dependent entity and the cardinality is 1. So the person who is going to consume your OData service does not know anything, I mean how it is implemented. His interface to OData service is this metadata. He looks at it, and know what kind of properties are there, I mean what kinds of associations, navigation properties are there. So they can build UI application in any UI framework in which can consume RESTful APIs or OData services. Okay, so how do you request product information? In order to request product information, you need to you need to get a sales order item. Okay, for the sales order item, right? There are two keys. One is the sales order. You can have, let's say, sales with, I mean your URI can be some prefix. Okay, sales order item. Okay, and let's see what are all the sales order item. SOID and SO item position are the keys. Okay, I'm going to get this one, and sales order item position. Okay, and I'm going to say, I'm going to pass some values here, I mean some legitimate sales order ID and sales order item, and I'm going to say item to product. Right, so let me first get some sales orders and sales order items. I know how to get the sales order items from the sales order, right? I will have order to, let me first get sales orders. So okay, I'm going to use this sales order, and from sales order, I mean we know how to get sales order items through navigation property called order
Order
to
to
items.
items.
Okay, so now I'm going to request this information in the JSON format. Okay, so it gets the sales order items. Okay, so I'm going to use this sales order ID. What I will say is sales order ID equal to this, sales order item
Position.
position equal
Item
to
position.
this one. Okay, this is my URI, so I'm just going to say, after this service I'm just going to say this one, and I'm going to add
Yes, sir.
format equal to JSON. Okay, so as we have cut breakpoint, resource not found for this segment.
So you need to regenerate, you need to just activate the dependent class.
What
Yeah,
does it
that's
say?
it.
Resource not found for this segment.
Yeah, try now. I had got this error, and that is what the SCN and everything had said, and it worked.
Okay, let me keep a breakpoint. I mean, I'm expecting to get into the debug mode so that I can show all the values it gets there.
No?
Resource not found for segment sales order item. Okay. Okay, 1 second. Let me just get. Okay. Item. This is my this is how I request a single sales order item, and I'm going to say item to product. Okay. Okay, I'm going to see item to product. Item to product. Okay, let me hit the breakpoint. Okay, now I got to the breakpoint. Okay. Uh, let's see what kind of information that we receive here. I know, I mean, at least we know at least we need a sales order and sales order item. Okay. Our entity name is product. Okay. Entity set name is products. But where is it originated from?
Sales order item.
Okay. What kind of information that we receive in the IT key tab? I mean, we receive sales order ID and sales order item position, right? So once we have these values, we know that, I mean, we have a function module. First we will get the sales order item. Then from the sales order item, we will get, um, from the sales order item, we will get the product ID. From the product ID, we will go to the get product details function module and get the products information, right? So that's what we are going to do. Okay. So let me just go here. But there is other way to come here too. Okay. Let's say your URI can be, I mean, I don't even come to sales order items. What I come from is, I mean, let's say if I make a URI like this, sales orders, okay, and from there we know order to items, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we use the navigation property order to items, what will we get? We will get sales order items, right?
Right.
We will get the entity set called sales order items. So up to this, it resolved to
Sales
sales
order item.
order items. Up
Mm-hmm.
to this point, it resolved to sales order items, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to say here sales order ID and So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to say I can even come from sales orders. Now the source is sales order, but the entity that I'm requesting is product. Did you understand?
Yeah.
Up to this part, it resolved to sales order items entity set. Okay, after once you, this is same thing, right?
Yep.
Isn't it same thing? Because from order up to order to items, it resolves to sales order items. Okay, so user can call in two different, user can get the product information either through this URI or through this URI. We need to make sure our implementation handles both kinds of URIs. Okay, so let me just call this. Okay, so it should also go to the product, products underscore get entity. Now if we see it, the entity name that we are requesting is product. The entity set name that we are requesting is products. Okay, what is the source name? Earlier the source name is sales order item because the request originated from sales order item. Now the request originated from sales order. From there we use the navigation property and primary keys to get the sales order item, and from there we use the navigation property called item to product. Okay, now if you see, the IT key tab has just only one key. If you look at it, you by now you can whatever the source, whatever you mentioned in the source, that is the one that you receive in the IT key tab. After that, all these are going to be in the navigation path. Okay, so if you look at earlier, I receive this information in the IT key tab. Now I only receive this information in the key tab. So whatever the source, whenever we pass the key in the source, we are going to get that one in the IT key tab. But after that, this one we are going to get in the navigation path, right? So if we look at, okay, if we look at the navigation path, right? Now there are, earlier we have only one item to product. Now we have other two items too. Okay, let me just take these navigation properties. Okay, so that I know how to write code for it. So if it is, in the other two item navigation property, I see a table, right, with sales order ID and sales order item position. I need both these values. So where am I getting those values from? From the navigation path. I'm getting these values from the navigation path. Okay. In case of here, I'm getting key values for SOID and SO item position from navigation path. But in this case, I am getting key values from
Key tab.
IT key tab. So let's say, whatever you pass in the source are going to be received in the IT key tab. Whatever else, mean you have passed after the source will be received in the IT navigation path. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I hope you guys understand this.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we got to implement based on the navigation path. Now we got to implement this method in two different ways. Okay. Let me show you what kind of navigation path then you receive in the first case. Okay. Did I delete? Uh, so you got to say sales are the items. Sorry. Okay. Now in the first case, we know we receive key value pairs in the IT key tab. Let's see whatever we passed from the source, it is received in the IT underscore key underscore tab internal table. And what do we have in the navigation path? If you look at the navigation path, there is only one navigation path after the source, item to product. This is the one, item to product. We did not pass anything to the item to product. But in the case of second one, there are two navigation paths after the source. One is order to items, where we pass two keys for sales order ID and sales order item position. And the second navigation path is item to product. Okay. So based on this information, we are going to write in corresponding implementation details. Okay. So let me implement. Okay. So in the navigation path, you have a so this is the structure when you read the table. Okay. And you have a IT key tab, which is of type name value pair, which is of line type this one. Okay. It is the same line type for IT underscore key tab. Okay. First, let me read. Okay, let's implement one by one. So let's implement the code for the first thing. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read table IT underscore navigation path into, okay, I'm going to do some local data definitions here.
So Sudhir, this is the second one that you're doing, right? Because we for the first one we don't need to read the navigation, right?
Yeah, but we just got to know, based on the navigation path, right? Let's say, how do we know, what is the request coming from the user, right? One second. In the first case, this is what we receive in the navigation path, right? We
Hmm.
can even look at, let's say if IT key tab is not initial, but the better way is, let's read the navigation path. If the navigation path is just this one, then we know in the IT key tab we will have values. But let's say if in the navigation path the first line is order to items, then we don't have values in the IT underscore key tab, but we are going to get those values from this navigation path. Does it make
Hmm.
sense?
Yeah.
Okay, data ls navigation path. Okay, type, this is my navigation path name. Okay, and okay, into the structure we are going to read the first one. Okay, index 1. I'm going to read the first line in the navigation path. Okay, so and this has values too. Let's say if I go to, this is the value, I mean I look at it. Okay, so basically ls navigation path hyphen this property equal to, so based on whether it is order to item or item to product, let's say if it is item to product, right? Let's say else if order to items, and if, right? Does it make sense? So when we, if it is item to product, we know that, type. Now I'm going to read or loop at it underscore key tab, since I'm expecting two values, into ls underscore key tab. Okay, and loop. Okay, if ls key tab hyphen name equal to sales order ID, right? And if ls key tab hyphen name equal to this one, SO item position. So in my data definition, Okay. So LO SID equal to the value, corresponding value. Okay. And I'm going to call this function module for the conversion exit. So if you, since I'm just going to, just going on writing the code, if you have any questions, just stop me in the middle and ask me. I assume if you are silent, I assume that you are going to understand the code. And since all of you have above background, I hope that you understand what I'm writing. But if you have any questions, just you can stop me and ask. Okay. So I'm just it is going to fill the leading spaces with leading zeros. Okay. That's what this conversion thing is doing. Okay. Okay. So similarly for SO item position, I'm going to put that LV SO item pos equal to this hyphen value. Okay, then we are going to call this function module. Okay, and we will pass the position, this one. Okay, now in the first case I receive both um, item service order number and position. Okay, so I will look at if LV SO ID is not initial. Okay, and LV SO item pos is not initial. Okay,
EOS
okay, sorry.
type.
And if, okay, so I'm going to call this function module to get the sales order details. I'm going to call this method to call the pattern. Where we receive header data and okay, let me create the corresponding data. ls s4 header type pm underscore s4 header and data lt s4 items type table of, okay, this one. data LSSO items, or just say item. Type this one. Okay, and I will just use these details. SOID is LV SO underscore ID, and for the header data I'm just deleting this return table. I expect everything would be fine. Okay, in the header data LO SO header, okay, and LT SO item, okay. So I will get LT SO, I mean in the internal table, in the item internal table, right? So I read the read table LT SO item into ls item with key SO item pos equal to LV SO LV SO item pos. So then I get the product ID from this structure. Okay, if this is not initial. If this is not initial, then I will get the product ID. Okay. So similarly, I'm going to define local data definition for this one. Okay. Now I call this function module. If I pass the product ID, I will receive the header data. Okay. So if I go here and this is the product ID and the header data is BAPI underscore EPM underscore product header. So this is the product ID. So we have so if I get the detail from the get detail from the tables from the item data, I will have product ID here. So it is product underscore ID. Okay. So ls item product underscore ID. So I'm going to get rid of this table section. I just need header data. So I'm going to receive the header data in ls underscore product. Okay. So once I have the product information, I will just pass it to, if you see the written code, it is ER entity, which is of type product. It is of the type the structure. Okay, so simply I'm going to say move uh, move ls product. Since it is of the same type, we don't even need to use move corresponding ls product to ER entity. Okay, so any questions, guys? Okay, what we have done is we looked at the navigation path. Let's say in the navigation path, if the first line is item to product, we know what kind of URI the user has requested. It is the first kind. So simply from the sales order, the source is sales order item. He pass sales order ID and sales order item position, and he uses the navigation property item to product. Okay. So when it is item to product, we receive key values in the IT key tab. So we loop through it and we looked at whether we receive sales order ID and sales order item position. Since it need, so to do some conversion to fill the leading spaces with zeros, we have used this function module. Okay, once we receive sales order ID and sales order item position, now we get the sales order details. In the sales order details, we will get the sales order header data and all of its sales order items. From the sales order item we receive from the user, we read this internal table. Okay, so we will get that sales order item. So from that sales order item, we look at the product and we will call this function module and we will get the product information. Then once we receive it, we are just going to pass it back to the users. There might be lots of validations that we need to do, uh, but for just simplistic reasons, I just kept it to what we are trying to do. I did not, whenever, if it is not initial, probably we got to send an error message saying to user, hey, it did not give us enough information to give you the product information. But you know how to write all the validations, so I'm not going to repeat the same things that we have discussed, so that we are just concentrating on the things that we need. Okay, so let me activate it. Okay, let's see. It is navigation path. Okay. It is ls s4 header. It is ls so underscore item. Okay, so let me activate it. Okay, let me keep a breakpoint. So we have only implemented it for the first, when we request product information through sales order item. Okay, so let's just execute it. So the navigation path contain only one record, that is item to product. Okay, So in the key tab, we did not receive any information in the navigation path because we did not pass any key values to this navigation property. Okay. So we read, okay, in the IT key tab, we receive sales order ID. If we look at it, we receive sales order ID and sales order item position. Okay. So we are good. So this is the sales order ID. So I mean this leading zero has been filled with this leading space has been filled with zero by this conversion exit alpha input function module. Similarly for item position, the leading spaces is going to be filled with zeros. Okay, that is the reason that we use these conversion exit in alpha input function modules. So since type conflict, okay, we know what this is. So for this, uh, we know this. Okay, this is a structure. Okay, let's just data ls svo id type. Okay, so ls svo id hyphen svo id equal to our svo id, and we are going to pass this structure, right? Now we have covered up to this. Let me just take out the breakpoint here. I'll put the breakpoint here. Okay. Now SYD is this one, so now I get the items. There are like 10 items, but the one that we are requesting for one is this one. So I will get the product ID. Okay. Uh, okay, even to this one, that is different. So this also is a structure, and it has product ID component. So the hyphen product ID equal to this thing. Okay. Let's look at our breakpoint. Becomes invalid. So let me keep a breakpoint here. Okay. So you got the okay. This is the product information. Ah, it seems there are no products. Okay. We got to generate the data. Okay, let's just execute it. Small. We got to okay. Okay, let me pass the sales order ID. So let's get there are, this is the product ID that we are looking for. Let's see whether it existed or not. So if we pass the product ID, so now we have header data. Okay. Okay, we got some information. Now let's call this again. Okay. We know, I mean, so it gives you the data. Okay. So if you want the data in the JSON format, okay, just get the data. Okay. Just okay. You will get the product information. Any questions, guys?
No.
Okay. So let me put this code outside so that we can use the same thing for both the options. Okay. To this, let me put the code outside. so that even in the second case we can use just the same code. Okay, so in the second case we know, let's say when we received it, okay, where do we get the IT key tab from, right? So if you look at this navigation path, right, so you have a key tab, that's where your values are going to be, okay? So what you do is you will just receive this table, okay, key tab. Okay, this is what we are going to do. Simply do the same thing. Okay, so instead of from this IT key tab, I go to this navigation path, and in this navigation path I find ls. I mean, in this navigation path, okay, you will find a key tab which receives from the navigation property, okay. So in the second case, I mean, this information is received in the IT key tab, but this key information is received in the key tab of the navigation path. Okay, that's why I go to that navigation path, I take the table key and key underscore tab. So I loop through it, I get sales order ID, sales order item position. Once I have it, I mean, I execute the same logic, okay? So let me go ahead and execute it again. Okay, but instead of this one, I'm going to use this URI. Okay. Okay, let me call. So we are not going to go into the first if, okay? So we go to the second if. So in this key tab, you have two values. One is sales order ID, sales order item position. Okay. So we are going to do the similar thing. We got both sales order ID and sales order item position. Okay. So we get the same information but through a different unique resource identifier. Okay, so I mean you got to take care of, I mean take consideration into how a URI can be, how a resource can be, requested in OData so that you cover all kinds of implementation uh, inside your OData develop data provider class extension. Okay. Any questions, guys?
No.
So similarly, I mean, he even can request the information like this, right? I mean, let's say if he needs product information, he could even say products, okay? Just pass the product ID. In this case, I mean, we don't give him the data. We can't. If we need to give, even in this case, probably we need to implement, right?
Product
So
information.
if
That
it
is
is the navigation, if it is the first one, no, it is not the first one. It is not even the second one. So it is not, it's just going to, don't give any information. So if we want to, I mean, write implementation for that, probably we'll just say here, we'll just say else if the navigation path is initial, just say initial. Okay. What we will say is we will read IT key tab, the table into ls key tab with key name equal to. So here you might just say product ID. Sorry. Just say product ID. Right? Then what you will say is if ls key tab is not initial, and if, okay, what you will do is you'll just copy this one, but instead of from here we are going to get from ls key tab hyphen value. Okay. So okay, now instead of going into the it just goes here and get the information. Okay, so I mean, based on your application, I mean, you look at the OData service, you create the OData service, and you take care of all the, I mean, scenarios into consideration when you are implementing these methods. Probably, I mean, we don't need to implement for this case because we always know that, the product does not exist by itself. It can only come from sales order item. But I mean, for the sales order item, you can even come from sales order and the navigation property other two items, or you can just get the sales order item through, I mean, the sales order items entity set. Okay, so the first two implementations are kind of necessary. The third one, I just, I mean, do it for just for the sake of discussion. Okay. Any questions, guys?